Hey guys, welcome to our South seminar during this crazy week of weather here. So today in the South seminar, we're going to be looking at the countries of Italy, Greece, Spain, and Portugal, and just a couple little microstates that are in between. Okay, remember as you go through the seminar to make sure you fill out your handout and then turn that in on the next page of Canvas when you get that far. Okay, so what we're going to do is kind of pick up where we left off in our last unit of the Roman Empire and kind of get to the Middle Ages and then into the current day. Okay, so we know that Odoacer controls Rome in 476 CE, or the Common Era. Okay, and we also know that he was that last emperor, and then everything kind of falls apart once the German areas come in, and then they divide this up into separate sections. Okay, with a lot of conflict and different people coming into rule, okay, we are going to see that there are a lot of unstable governments. Okay, unstable governments simply because we have a lot of people taking over at this time, trying to incorporate new laws, new rules, and so on. Okay, and unstable governments really lead to different powers becoming very influential. So at this time, the Catholic Church kind of increases their power. So they were a stable hierarchy based on religion. All right, but what we're going to notice is that the Pope, the leader of the Catholic Church, is going to use that power to influence governments from the fall of the Roman Empire into the Middle Ages. During this time, once we hit the Middle Ages, that time period between ancient times and modern times, we're going to notice that there aren't a lot of scientific advancements coming through during this time. Some good terms to know in this section, because we do pay a lot of attention to religion. Okay, so the Pope is the head of the Roman Catholic Church. Okay, just the Catholic Church. So the Catholic religion is a part of that umbrella that we talk about in a different seminar. But Christianity is this umbrella with all these different religions in between, the Catholic Church being one of them. So the leader of the Catholic Church is the Pope. The Pope lives in Vatican City. The Vatican City is like the headquarters or the center point of the Catholic religion, and they exist as their own separate identity from any other nation today. Okay, so since Vatican City is considered a country, but it's really, really little, only about 1,000 people live within Vatican City, we call them a microstate. A microstate is just a very small country. So if we look at the population of 1,000 people, we could say, boy, Marshfield has more people than that, but yet Vatican City, Andorra, San Marino, and so forth are all considered these microstates, these tiny little countries. Okay, so as we have all those unstable governments coming from the fall of Rome into the Middle Ages, we have a guy named Charlemagne who becomes really common. Okay, what we're going to notice is that with these unstable governments, like we mentioned before, okay, the Pope, he's going to kind of take advantage of the situation, okay, and he's going to start to influence government leaders, because remember, religion played a huge part in people's lives at this time. Okay, so the Pope is going to determine political policies, which is really odd because in our country we try to keep government and religion completely separate. Okay, but at this time the Catholic Church is going to be running a lot of these policies within these countries. One key item, just as an example, is that the Pope wanted to reclaim Jerusalem back when there has a pilgrimage for the Catholic religion. Okay, and Jerusalem is under the Islamic rule, or there are a lot of Islamic people living in Jerusalem. So the Pope determined that he was going to bring together an army and they're going to fight the Crusades. So again, the Pope is uniting people into a military formation, which is usually a part of a country. So we can see how these lines are being crossed between religion and government. Okay, so as time goes on, once we get through the Middle Ages, this area of the world, the South, okay, is going to hit a time period that we call the Renaissance. The Renaissance is simply a word that in English we translate that to rebirth, okay? So up to this point we didn't have anything new going on. So when we talked about Greece, we talked about Rome, we talked about scientific advancements, we talked about medicine, philosophy, arts, and so forth. Okay, but that all kind of stopped within that Middle Age. The Renaissance is the rebirth of all of this learning. Okay, so people are going to find a renewed interest in the arts. They're going to go back to the Greeks and the Romans. They're going to pick up from where they left off and build upon these scientific advancements, medicines, literature, arts, and so forth. Okay, during the Renaissance, we're going to kind of pull back, okay, from that influence of that Catholic Church. Not that people were necessarily not religious anymore, but they're more worldly. They're recognizing that the world is different, that everyone doesn't have to believe the same thing. There's more of a focus on people at this time, people's rights, people's happiness, what people are interested in. Education comes back during this time. So it's really the rebirth of the great things that we noticed when we talked about Greece and Rome. Okay, so if we look at the Renaissance, we're going to notice that a lot of people are going to start migrating to cities. This is a concept known as urbanization. Okay, so once people start moving to cities, we're going to have more discussions, more debates. Again, we're going back to that era of Greece and Rome when that was really important. Okay, a lot of people during this time went to Florence and Venice, okay, to do these things in Italy. During the Renaissance, a lot of governments became more stable at this time. We had new technologies. We talked about literature. At this time, they're going to be able to create a printing press. Okay, one of the most common things that they printed at this time was the Christian Bible. Okay, and we would actually realize if we look today's world, that's one of the most printed books in all of the world is the Bible. Okay, during the Renaissance, because we're in that period of the 1300s to the 1600s, this is also the time of exploration. So places like Spain and Italy and Portugal are now going to send out ships to discover the rest of the world. They're exploring. During this time, there were a lot of famous artists that came out of the Renaissance. So if we look down this list, there should be a few names that you are familiar with. So we have Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, Raphael Sanzio, and Donatello. And you can see some of the things that they painted here, like the Mona Lisa, the Last Supper, Madonna and Child. These are works of arts that will last, forever. That everybody learns about, even though they're so old. A lot of these arts, like the Mona Lisa, are located in the Louvre, which is located in France. It's one of the largest museums in the world. So if we look at art at this time, we talked about like statues and stuff when we looked at the Romans and the Greeks. What we're going to notice now is that art is going to be more of like people or the natural world. We're going to see more landscapes, more works of art of people, how they really looked in realistic perspective. Okay, we're going to notice that they had improved techniques during their art at this time. Again, so they're building upon this art. That's really what the Renaissance is to come back and build upon those things that stopped for so long. And we can see in our picture that even the names of the artists carry on even in current days. So we have our Ninja Turtles there, Leonardo, Raphael, Donatello, Michelangelo. I should know this just because my kids. Okay, but we're going to notice that these names carry on and they're familiar to us even in 2019 when they were so long ago. Okay, so if we spend some time looking at the countries in this area, so we look at Italy a little bit. Okay, so Italy we spent a little bit of time on when we looked at Rome. Okay, and we looked at physical features and we looked at climate, okay, and so forth. So we know that Italy is covered by two main mountain ranges, and on the map we can see those. So in the northern part of Italy, we're going to see that the Alps take up that section, and then down the central part of Italy, going down the middle, are the Apennines. Okay, mountains are really important, like through history, because first they isolate people, but they can help prevent attacks, but also they influence the climate. Okay, so since the mountains are there and the Alps are very tall mountains, or high, all right, we're going to notice that they block a lot of those moist winds from the Atlantic. So when you go to Central Europe and Northern Europe, we're going to notice that their climates are more mild, okay, a little bit more rainy because of that wind coming off the Atlantic. Well, Italy is going to be different because those mountains block that moist wind. Since that's true, okay, they're going to have a Mediterranean climate for the most part, so they're going to have these hot, dry summers, sometimes rainy winters, but most of their weather is not from the winds off the Atlantic, but rather the winds from North Africa. So the winds from North Africa are called the Sirocco winds, and we can see on the map there, how that wind gust comes off of Africa and blows into Italy, creating that really hot, dry air. Now, if we look at the regions of Italy, again, depending on where you live in Italy, determines like what your economy is, what's grown there and so forth. So southern Italy is actually the poorest part of Italy. Okay, they call this area Mezzogiorno. So I always think of DiGiorno pizza just for the pronunciation. So Mezzogiorno, this area of Italy in the south, is the poorest region. Okay, so in this area, because it is pretty hot, it is pretty dry, that means agriculture is not going to be as good there because most crops won't grow. Okay, if we look at the city of Naples, they have some of the worst poverty in all of Europe. Now, since that's true, if you live in southern Italy and you can't find a job, or the job that you have doesn't pay a lot, okay, over time people will eventually migrate. They're going to move out of this area to find a better lifestyle or find a better job. A lot of people in Italy, if they live in the south, tend to migrate to northern Italy because there are more jobs there, the land is better, and so forth. Okay, central Italy is really looked at as the cultural place of Italy. So we have a few cities located in central Italy. Rome is located there. It's the capital. It was also the capital of the Western Roman Empire. Bologna is an agricultural center. Florence was really like the starting point of the Renaissance, where we had all that rebirth. Vatican City is also located in central Italy. Remember, that's a country within a country because they are that microstate. Okay, another microstate in Italy that is a country within a country is an area called San Marino. Northern Italy, this is really the place where the economy booms. So we have a lot of stuff going on in northern Italy. So most of the agriculture takes place in northern Italy because of the Po River. So a lot of times where you have a river, you also have really fertile land on either side of the river. So agriculture is really prominent in northern Italy. They typically produce wheat and rice. The main industrial cities are Milan and Turin. Okay, most of the industries in Italy are nationalized, very similar to the United Kingdom, to Norway, to Sweden. A nationalized industry means that the government is in control. But in Italy, they have kind of a policy that the government is in control when there's trouble, when the economy slumps and things like that. Okay, Genoa is a port city, so a lot of their products come in through there and out through there. That northern tier, okay, of Italy is made up of the Alps, so we know that that equals good skiing in the winter, nice ski resorts, and so forth. Venice is also a really unique city, so that's what we're looking at in this picture. And one of your clue sticks, it talks about how Venice formed, okay, from all these people like escaping Attila the Hun and the Goths. Okay, well, Venice was built in an area that was really a swampy area, so instead of using like roads and cars, they actually have canals and they travel by gondolas, which are the boats that we are seeing in this photo. Okay, Greece we spent a lot of time on in our Greek unit. Okay, so we know that Greece is made up of peninsulas and islands, Crete being the largest of those. There's a lot of mountains in Greece. They're simply an extension of the Dinaric Alps coming from the northern part down. Okay, the Sirocco winds from Africa, like we talked about in Italy, also affect Greece. Okay, so their climate is hot in the summer, kind of wet in the winter, which allows for them to produce grapes and olives really well. Okay, since they're able to produce grapes and olives, those are their main exports, but typically in the form of wine or olive oil. In Greece, since they are surrounded by water, so if you're surrounded by water, typically fishing and shipping are going to be your two major industries, and Greece is the same. So fishing is a common job for most people. They have one of the largest shipping fleets in the world. Again, they are a peninsula. They are surrounded by water. Okay, that sea, and they have the Aegean Sea by them. They're able to go out towards Africa, down to Asia, and so forth, or down to Africa and over to Asia. Okay, and so forth. That's really good for their trade. They make some of the best ships in the world. Greece in the last 5 years did have some economic problems. They had a lot of debt in their country, which caused huge inflation. So inflation, remember, is when your prices of your products go up while the value of your money goes down. If we look at the regions of South Europe, we're going to notice that there are two religions that are really common, which is the Catholic religion and the Orthodox religion. So the Catholic religion really stemmed off of Italy, and the Orthodox religion stemmed off of Greece. So if we look at these ideas, they're both Christian, so they have the same beliefs of Jesus Christ and so forth, okay, but they have some different policies. So the Pope is the head of the Catholic Church in Italy, in Vatican City. The highest bishop is actually the leader of the Orthodox religion. The Pope is considered infallible, which means that he can't do anything wrong. Okay, that seems a little bit shady. Okay, the Orthodox religion, they're not infallible. So we can see, just looking down this list, you know, how different the Catholic religion is from the Orthodox, but they're little things. Okay, so like Mary, the mother of Jesus, was born with no sin. Okay, in the Orthodox religion, Mary was just like everybody else. People in the Orthodox religion, if they're a bishop, they can marry. In the Catholic Church, priests cannot. Okay, so we do have a lot of little differences, but the main things is they both believe in the Bible and they both believe in the story of Jesus Christ. The last two countries that we look at are Spain and Portugal. Okay, and Andorra, because it's a little nation over here. Okay, Spain and Portugal make up the Iberian Peninsula. In the northern part of them, they have the Pyrenees Mountains that kind of separate them from the rest of Europe. They also have that Mediterranean climate, so they are able to produce grapes and olives, just like Italy and Greece. Their summers are usually wet. Some of the unique features about them, Andorra is located here. Again, it's one of those really tiny countries, a microstate. Spain has the Meseta, which is this huge plateau. In Spain, it's considered the heartland region where they produce most of their agriculture. Bullfighting is a big tradition in both Spain and Portugal that we look at a little bit closer in our clue checks. Okay, and that's going to end our South seminar.